The first rule was about counting. Count everyone who steps onto the boat. Count everyone who steps off. The two numbers have to match. It sounds simple. It is simple. Right up until the night more people walk off the ferry than ever walked on. I read that card twice. I even laughed at the last rule. The one that said the deckhands who didn't follow it were still on the manifest. Then, on my fourth crossing of the night, I counted 6 souls aboard. And when we reached the far dock, 7 walked off. They told me the overnight dock was the quietest job on the coast. The Harrow Point ferry ran a narrow strait between 2 headlands, an hour from the nearest town where the road just stopped at the water and waited. There were night runs, the last ferries, one an hour from midnight to dawn, and almost nobody rode them. They needed one deckhand to work the gangway, count the passengers, and keep the lights on. The harbor master who hired me had hands like driftwood and didn't waste words. He gave me a slicker, a laminated rules card, and a clipboard. He said the last deckhand had gone over, and he let me decide what that meant. Then he walked up the dock into the dark, and I never saw him again. There were 6 rules. 1. Count every passenger who boards. Count every passenger who steps off. The 2 numbers must match. If more step off than stepped on, do not let the last one pass. 2. The ferry leaves on the hour when the bell rings. Never cast off early, never cast off late. 3. One passenger rides every night, soaked to the skin, always in the last seat at the stern. Do not take their ticket. Do not ask where they're going. 4. At 3 a.m. the fog comes in. Kill the deck lights, go into the wheelhouse, and do not look at the water until it lifts. 5. If you hear someone calling for help from the water, it is not a swimmer. Do not throw the ring. Do not stop the boat. 6. Follow the rules and you dock at sunrise. The deckhands who didn't are still on the manifest. I laughed at that last line. For 3 crossings, it was the quietest job on the coast. The first 3 runs were nothing. I counted them on, I counted them off. The numbers matched every time. It was the 4th crossing where it started. I stood at the gangway and counted them aboard. A man with a dog, a pair of teenagers, an old woman with a suitcase, a young man in a hood who wouldn't meet my eyes. 6 souls, midnight straight. Last ferry but one. And then, when I made my walk down the deck, I saw someone in the very last seat at the stern, soaked through, water pooling beneath them, facing out at the black water, perfectly still. Rule 3, do not take their ticket. Do not ask where they're going. So I didn't count them. I walked back to the wheelhouse and I did not look at the stern again. I wasn't laughing anymore. After that, I watched the clock the way you watch the tide come in. At 2:58, I stopped pretending I wasn't waiting for it. And at exactly 3 a.m., the fog came in, off the strait. Not drifting, not rolling, but arriving all at once, like a held breath let go. It swallowed the far headland, then the near one, then the bow of my own boat, until the deck lights were just smudges of yellow in a wall of gray. Rule 4, kill the deck lights, get in the wheelhouse, don't look at the water. I cut the lights. I pulled the door, and I stared at the dead radar screen, and I listened to the strait breathe around me. And then, from out on the water, someone called my name. It came again. My name. Close, then far, then close, drifting in the fog like it couldn't decide where the boat was. Help me. Please, I'm in the water. I can't feel my legs. You have to stop the boat. Rule 5. If you hear someone calling from the water, it is not a swimmer. Do not throw the ring. Do not stop the boat. It sounded so real. A young voice choking on seawater. And it knew my name, my real name, the one that wasn't on the manifest. I can see the lights, I can see you. Why won't you help me? Just throw the ring, just stop, just look. I gripped the wheel and kept my eyes on the dead screen and said nothing. The voice circled the boat once, twice. It scratched at the hull below the waterline, slow, like fingernails dragged down the steel. And then all at once the fog thinned, and the strait was empty and black and still. The far dock came up out of the lifting fog, its single lamp swinging. I'd survived the dark hour. All I had to do now was tie up, let my 6 passengers off, and run the empty boat back. I lowered the gangway, and I counted them off. The man with the dog, the 2 teenagers, the old woman with the suitcase, the young man in the hood. 5. I waited. And up the deck, from the very last seat at the stern, A sixth figure rose, soaked, dripping, slow, and behind it a seventh. Rule 1. If more step off than stepped on, do not let the last one pass. I had counted 6 aboard, now 7 were walking off my boat. 2 soaked figures came up the deck toward the gangway, side by side, water running off them. The first one, the one who rowed every night, kept its face turned away, the way it always did. But the 7th one looked right at me, and I understood the rule the card never wrote down. The strait doesn't give back what it takes. Every night the ferry carries one more than it should, one more soul climbing aboard out of the black water, riding to the far shore to walk off wearing a face that used to belong to someone. The ferry doesn't lose its passengers, it delivers them. The 7th figure stopped at the top of the gangway, close enough to touch. A young man about my age in a deckhand slicker exactly like mine, soaked through. A tally counter still looped around one gray wrist. He didn't try to pass me. He just stood there, water sheeting off him, and he looked at me with an expression I will never get out of my head. And his mouth moved, the same shape over and over. And even though the wind took the sound, I could read it on his lips. Run. I didn't let him pass. I dropped the clipboard and I ran off the boat, up the dock, toward the gravel lot where I'd left my car under the one dead streetlight. I got the door open, I got the key in, and the engine turned over and never caught, not once, not even a click. My phone had no signal. It never had, not the whole night. And on the passenger seat, where I had not left it, was the manifest clipboard. I read the crew line at the top, the line that lists the deckhand on duty. There were 2 names on it now. The last deckhand, the one who went over, and under his in fresh ink, still wet, mine. I'm telling you this from the deck. It's 11:58 at night. In 2 minutes, the midnight bell rings, and I cast off. I don't know how many crossings it's been now. The fog log resets. The card is still in my slicker. There's a clean manifest on the clipboard. And at the top, in handwriting I don't remember as mine, my name is already signed on as crew. So I'm going to do the only thing I can do. I'm going to follow the rules. Every one of them. Exactly. Because the card says that if I follow the rules, I dock at sunrise. It doesn't say which shore. If you're ever on a dock at the edge of the coast, an hour past the last town, and a ferry slides in out of the fog with its lights on, and no name on the hull, stay on the shore. Don't count the lights. Don't answer the voice in the water. And whatever you do, don't be the last one up the gangway. Because the strait is always one soul short of even, and it's patient enough to wait for the night you step aboard. They told me the fire lookout was the loneliest job in the state. They gave me a card too. And the second rule was about the lights you see in the trees. If you made it to the end, would you have stopped the boat for the voice in the water? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe to the Dread Archive, and I'll see you at the lookout.